in this episode.
And that's actually where we came up with the name. We were getting ready to go talk to a pharmacist that had been causing some problems. We were just going to do a friendly interview. We were myself and a task force officer who was local to the area were sitting outside of a pharmacy, and we were watching people walk in to kind of see what people were going into the pharmacy, to kind of get an idea of what to expect. And see somebody walking in, and the task force officer with me points him out and says, "Hey, you see that guy right there? He's generally polite but dangerous." And the moment he said it, I thought, I want that on my tombstone.
In an obtuse world, Mark and Jefe will combine military, law enforcement, and general FUD knowledge to keep you vertical. Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Thanks for swinging by another episode of the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast as I sit here and try to adjust my microphone. Thank you so much for swinging by. As always, we have our wonderful co-host, Jefe. How you doing?
I'm like new dad tired.
Did you go to the gym today?
Yes, I actually did.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Actually, we're about 4 weeks post baby, and my wife's going stir crazy. So we dropped oldest little one off daycare, and then we go to the gym for about an hour and a half with the newest little one. And
awesome. Good for you.
Not too crazy, but
that's good.
3 hours of sleep doesn't help.
I even made it to the gym today, 2 days in a row.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, I've been fighting through that lower respiratory infection that I've had. Really sucks, dude. So
wouldn't recommend.
No, I don't.
Good thing you're going to go to the virus capital or virus event of the season.
Yes,
go
get the HIV. No, not the HIV. Probably the plague. Just the plague.
The bubonic, not the.
Yes. Yeah. So not the Wuhan. So with that being said, we do have SHOT Show coming up. Hopefully, everything times out correctly here in probably
by the time you hear this will be like 2 weeks to almost.
Actually, it's already we're in the future to when you guys are listening. So you should have already heard a great podcast with Jake from Mantis Tech. You should have already heard the Shit Show Extravaganza podcast, and then so now we have another great guest, and we're gonna have a good time. So with that being said, hey, thank you for listening to this podcast. I almost said video, but podcast. Thanks for listening.
He's in this YouTuber.
Yeah,
YouTuber.
I know. It's hard to.
Did you record a video today?
Not today. I probably will do that Thursday.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
but thanks for stopping by and listening to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys want to interface with us, there is a number of different ways that you can do it. You can do it on Instagram, finding our Live, Laugh, LARP podcast Instagram page. You can DM us on there. You can comment on the Spotify list recordings. If you guys are listening to it there, you can talk to us there. We have a YouTube channel, so if you guys swing on by and listen to us on the YouTubes, if you want to do that, or the Radio Freedom Network, if I could even say that. So a number of different places that you can find us. We do appreciate each and every single time that you guys listen to us, because we do see those analytics growing. And if any of y'all out there own a business and you want to sponsor said podcast, you can do that as well. But with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right on into this episode, and we now have Kurt. Excuse me,
Sam.
It's Sam. Because I'm an idiot, I read things backwards.
Sam with polite and dangerous knivery, cutlery, tools.
Polite but dangerous tools. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Sam, I butchered that. I am so sorry.
No worries at all.
I apologize for that. But Sam here, Sam here is the proprietor of Polite and but Dangerous Tools. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, great to have you here.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
So,
Sam, who are you? What do you do?
My name's Sam Curtis, and I am the stock removal knife maker at Polite but Dangerous Tools here in Alaska.
Alaska, man. I heard you guys had like ridiculously warm weather just a few days ago. Is that right?
This is the craziest winter we've had since I've been here, because there's no snow. We just got maybe a quarter inch of snow last night, and that's all we have. I've never seen a winter like that up here.
Yeah, we just got dumped on. We got about 18 inches, give or take, depending on exactly where you live. But were you about that 18
Yeah,
inch
we're
mark?
about, I think we were at 16 and a half.
Yeah, so I think we were at 14 and a half. And then our buddy Jake that lives just down the road, he got 18 inches. And that's for Kansas, that is tons of snow.
So if you're looking for your snow, we have it.
Yeah.
And we'll not give it back.
My wife actually just got back from the East Coast, and she had a hard time getting there because there was too much snow and a hard time getting back. And we, nothing here. Everybody was asking her, hey, is it cold in Alaska right now? You guys, this has got to be nothing for you. And, she came back to sunny skies and no snow on the ground at all.
Well, good for her. That's a great way to come home,
Yeah.
especially up there when you're expecting, harsh winters and so far you're going to get probably dumped on through February and March, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we'll have this to April, in Alaska every year. Just is completely different, but you at least expect snow. We normally around this time we'd have, the snow really is stability around this time. Otherwise, it's just mud and stuff like that where we're at. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff that you depend on, a lot of guys ice fishing right now. All the ice sports are going on. Mushing, it's mushing season where we're at for a lot of guys. So can't even run dogs right now because there's no snow. It's just wet mud everywhere.
Yeah.
So before we get too down into the ice sports land, so tell us a little bit about polite and dangerous tools.
We do stock removal knives, which is we're buying metal and cutting shapes out of them. We're making mainly 1095 80 CRV2 carbon steel tools that have a primitive look to them. That we are still very modern. That they're full tang tools, they're Kydex sheaths, they're all the things that you expect from the modern tools that you get from anyone else. But we put a lot of extra effort into making sure that we have a primitive look for people that kind of want to maintain that aesthetic while still having all the capabilities of a tool that they're used to using all the time. Draining water off of the sheath, not having to worry about flexing a blade or a handle popping off or anything like that. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that we have tools that you can depend on, that you're used to, but making sure that we have something that makes you stand out a little bit as well. Kind of bringing back a little bit of what I think is some of the artistic individualism that we've lost a little bit. As people got more into the tactical community, we've gone, away from woods and leathers, all polymer, all Kydex, all plastic, and all black metal, stuff like that. So what we're trying to do is kind of bring back some of the art to it a little bit while still giving people tools that they're comfortable with.
So the best way I would describe it is primitive functional art. When I saw, the way I kind of accidentally stumbled upon y'all was Firing Device M57. His Instagram had that. You guys had that giveaway together with the Yukon Cornelius comma. That you guys.
The pickaxe. So we've done it the past couple of years, and this year we made a separate one for him with a Yukon Cornelius themed Christmas giveaways.
Yes, and that was, I saw that and I was like, man, I absolutely love this, and you are 100% correct. I've kind of been looking at trying to replace a couple knives and tools, and you said you nailed on the head. Everything is black Kydex, black rubber, or black G10, and most of it's cookie cutter from knife maker X, Y, and Z, produced in China, shipped over here. But you guys definitely have a very unique look. So kind of talk to us like a little bit. How did you guys get to kind of the is it part of y'all's heritage, where you kind of come from? Is it like a Native American aesthetic you guys look for, or what kind of drives it?
No, I think so. What happened originally was, I grew up just on Rambo movies and hunted and everything like that. Told my dad I wanted to make a knife. We went to the store and we got a piece of mild steel. Neither one of us knew what we were doing. And over the course of about a week on a bench grinder, we kind of rough shaped what looked like a sword out of it. Nothing fancy whatsoever, nothing that was usable. But it really got me interested in it. Well, my second knife, looking at, I messed up. I was working something on a file, messed up, and had this gigantic gash in the side of it. And I was probably 16 years old at the time. Gigantic gash, had no idea what to do. So I just started kind of trying to see if I could flatten it out whatsoever, but it just kept getting worse and worse. And eventually, I noticed it started to have this stone tool shape to it, where I was just making tons of divots in it and things like that. I put that away, didn't think about it for years. Made a couple of hobby or knives as a hobby maker when I was in the Army. Years later, when I finally got to a place where I was out of the Army in Alaska and I wanted to do more with knives, I found in a box that little first knife I'd made. I thought, hey, maybe there's something here that I could kind of work on. So started perfecting shapes I wanted to a little bit. And instead of this time chasing a mistake, I was intentional in placing all of those features exactly where I wanted. And kind of working that a little bit more in a pattern, even though keeping things a little misplaced. And what I ended up with was what I call my nap texture design now. And what it looks like is it looks like you've taken a piece of stone and you flint napped it out, just like people used to carve stones out of or arrowheads out of stone and things like that. And those are the features for the flats of the blade. So in addition to, some of the benefits we see where you're lightening the weight of the knife and stuff like that, you have this aesthetic where you have a knife that either is going to have leather, oak, or maple handle sculpted usually into a knife that looks like it's been carved out of stone. And that's really the aesthetic we were going for, coming down to the cutting edge so it looks like that primitive stone knife. And that led us into sculpted handles, and that led us into wraps and just a few more things that we could add here and there to make it more functional. And then we started getting into the laminated kydex, which if you look at our sheaths, what we do is we take a standard kydex sheath, waffle design, eyelets on both sides, but we take the top cover and we laminate that with a piece of leather. Depending on the project, we have a bunch of different types here that we work with, but usually it's just a natural color leather, and we wood burn in the outline of the knife roughly. And what you're left with is this stone-looking knife, or this knife that looks like it's carved out of stone, going into a sheath that looks like it's made out of leather. And then underneath all of that, that's really where we put just a functional knife. And what we started doing with that is, as we started making those, I realized, this might be kind of what I was looking for when I was in the military, when I was using knives before, something that I can put my artistic style on that's not that generic black plastic knife, that generic micarta or G10. And I can kind of put something on it that really brings out the style I'm looking for in a world that's kind of gotten completely standardized with Glocks and ARs and the knives that you see from big box stores and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I see that you've also branched out a little bit. You've got a like a tomahawk that you're working as well. Talk to us about the design of that tomahawk real quick.
So we do two things. We do two types of tomahawks, and we do have our standard American tomahawk, which looks like a frontier pattern tomahawk, and then we have our Bontoc, which is from the Bontoc Igorot tribe in the Philippines, and they were known for being the head hunting tribe, and they had these large head hunting knives. You've seen a lot of other makers make these as well. They're known for their front spike, and the front spike does a lot of things. One, it doesn't allow the knife to kind of glance off, or the axe to glance off anything. So if you've been chopping with an axe before, you probably had one of those bad strikes where you hit something, the edge doesn't hit just right, and the axe just glances off of it very, very fast. What these do is that front spike is actually going to catch into whatever you're cutting into. It's going to hold fast. There's a couple other things too where it brings the material a little bit closer to you. So as you're swinging, if you can imagine that, almost like a hook that's going to draw your target into you a little bit more, and kind of create some of that pressure on the cut as well. But for safety's sake, it also prevents the axe from glancing off at all. With the headhunter tribes, what you would see is, they claim that as you're coming across the back of the head, that the hook's actually creating a path to remove the head faster. For us, we're looking at something that we use a front spike on the front of the tomahawk, and then the back spike where you would normally have a spike, we turn that into a pry bar. So you kind of have the ability to do a couple different things with that tomahawk. that maybe you wouldn't on standard tomahawk. We don't have the pole end. We have a pry bar there, and then the front spike, which has kind of become popular just for the aesthetics as well, but does have a pretty useful purpose. We're finishing up one right now. I just ground one a little bit before signing on with you guys.
Oh, nice. Right on. So always working.
Usually here, yeah. So if we're and it's kind of being a small part-time shop, we sign off of our full-time job. I had an hour. I knocked out a few tontos waiting for this. If we're moving from one side of the house to the other, I'm moving materials that I need to work on in one room to the other. Kids go to bed. I work for a little bit. Wife goes to bed. I work for a little bit more. So we fill every minute we can here.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Is your family kind of into it too? Is your kids helping you out? Is your wife helping out at all?
Yeah, so the website's all my wife, and then I think what a lot of people are drawn to on Instagram are the photos and things like that. That's all my wife. She helps style props and everything like that. So the page really is, I think, what draws a lot of people to the page. It's not just the knives themselves and the tools themselves, but we do a lot of art. We have a lot of props in the background, things like that. And my wife manages all that, takes all the photos, does a lot of the art, and then does all the website and works to get things shipped out with me. The kids love doing stuff. They help come up with our sticker designs, our logos. They give us a lot of great ideas for what we're working on. We're working on right now with that Bontoc tomahawk, what we're calling the I Got a Bad Idea batch. And my 4-year-old son, he always asks me to make more ninja knives. That's what he always says. More ninja knives. Let's make more ninja knives. And this year, for some reason, around New Year, he starts saying, I got a bad idea. And then he would run off and do something. And so we're making some wrap knives and wrap tontos right now. And we're calling it the I Got a Bad Idea batch.
Right on. That's pretty cool. So let's back up just a little bit. You talked about, you started with your first knife that you worked on with your dad, and then you started and got into the second knife that you kind of put in a drawer and forgot about it. And then once you found that and decided, okay, this is actually something I really want to do, what are some of the things that kind of helped you along to kind of help you kind of find, I guess, your style, your like fingerprint on the knife industry? Because I mean, there are tons and tons of people. I mean, just as a side note, we have a forge here in town that myself, my girlfriend, my daughter, we all went and we made our own knives, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it just kind of gets me thinking, how does one person kind of get into that? And then what are some of the things that you've learned since then?
I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was that if you're getting into any kind of creative space, is that you find a style that's yours quick, and then even if you improve on it, you don't change it. And so that's been one of our goals, that we don't, even if we add to our aesthetic a little bit, we don't change it. But one of the things I think that, we look at when we started advancing some of this stuff is, the same thing I think a lot of knife makers look at. Can I do this faster? Can I do this more efficient? Is there something with the design that I need to tweak to make it perform better? But really, I think what helps us out the most is, here in Alaska, we use knives all the time. We're constantly outside with the kids. In the summer, we're constantly outside. One of our most popular knives is the Forager. It's a reverse edge knife that's very small, easy to fit in a pocket. And that literally came from, us being out in the woods all the time. And forage, as soon as there are things that we can collect outside, we're doing that until there's, until that season's done. And then we move on to the next plant or whatever it is. We move on to fish or whatever else we have going on. And we were making knives to fit each one of those purposes. And then as we showcase some of those, we'd kind of see what other people were looking for. But that all came from a point of use. And that's another thing that we've told a lot of new knife makers starting out is, the best thing you can do if you're developing a style or something like that is just be in the woods or be using a knife, be cooking with it. If you make a knife or you want to, develop something with it, the best thing you can do is use a knife. Buy a cheap $10 knife and use it until you know what needs to be changed on it. Make a change, and then work a little bit more on changing it. And then that kind of knowledge over time with a little bit of artistic styling, I think it's kind of got us to where we are now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the forager you were just talking about, I think that's actually a really interesting design to have a reverse cutting edge on that blade. So as you're holding it, that blade is going to be kind of facing you instead of down like a lot. Help me understand. I'm not a knife expert. I don't pretend to understand knives. I'm actually kind of scared of knives.
I stick a gun in my pants every day, but knives are scary.
I fear a knife more than I do a gun.
That's fair.
So help me understand the concept of the forager. Why is that knife edge reversed?
So when I transitioned from the Army infantry to Army intelligence, we went through, I met a fantastic instructor when I was there. And this was around the time in the knife community, you were seeing people buying and modifying what's called an apple fruit knife, or Victorinox fruit knife, apple knife. It was a $3 paring knife, and they were grinding an index finger notch on the reverse edge of it, so you could use it like a reverse edge knife. The idea being that you get a cheap knife that you could use a reverse edge with. He introduced me to it when we were talking about knives one day. Started looking into it, and the idea is that you have these older pattern knives that are typically for mushroom foraging, sometimes fruit, sometimes if you look at the Opinel line of knives, they're foraging knives and they're mushroom collecting knives have that same reverse edge. When you look at some of the fruit knives that a lot of people use, they have the reverse edge for like cutting apples back towards you, things like that. But they're really popular in the knife community for a long time because when you're using them as a self-defense tool, which is what a lot of people did, you'd see some of these knife accounts talk about the backstory with some cheaper fruit knives that you could throw them away if you needed to and you didn't have to keep up with it. But the idea behind it was that you have a small compact tool that as you strike, you're actually pulling a target back into you a little bit. So it's you're using a little bit more of your body mechanics to your advantage. So if you can imagine, let's say you have a forager with a reverse curved edge and you're striking out with a knife in a self-defense fashion, you're probably going to be using a reverse grip. And that means that or you're going to be using it with a reverse grip, but ice pick grip is what a lot of people would call it. And that's where the blade is positioned at the bottom of your hand. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine swinging that out to push somebody off of you, that pushing motion is going to create an arc with the curve of that knife that's going to catch a target and pull it back into you. So you're not talking about a knife glancing off. Similar to the Bontoc, I talked about it catching whatever your target is and pulling it back to you. The forager does that as well. And so it is very advantageous for some of these, kind of get off me situations. And people saw that and liked the benefit of that, but it also had the idea or had the benefit of not being a tactical defense knife. People like the idea that you were using something that was a utility tool. It's not, the idea that you didn't go out there looking for trouble. You don't have a Rambo knife in your waist looking for a chance to use it or something like that. And so that's kind of what built up the entire persona. I picked up an Opinel forager when I was in Germany, looked at it for a little bit, picked out what I didn't like, made a fixed blade version that we were comfortable with that we used around here for a significant period of time, actually foraging. And once we were comfortable with it, we kind of built the forager model and then all the products and advertisements that went with that, the stickers, the artwork, and then some of the props and other things that we built around that and the photos that we put together from it, advertising that as a knife meant to forage.
That's cool. I mean, that's really interesting. Again, these are concepts that are a bit foreign to me. I've got a knife that I carry. It's just a folding knife, and I carry it every day, and it's nothing special, so finding these more artistic style knives are really kind of cool, especially after making my own knife and understanding, taking a I would say probably a 2-inch by 6-inch piece of 1095 carbon steel and then hammering that out into what is now a hunting knife, and I thought that whole process was fascinating. I immediately went back and signed up for their tomahawk class, which
that's awesome.
Yeah, it took I ended up taking a railroad spike and turning it into a tomahawk that has obviously a blade on one side and then the strike portion for the hammer on the spike is a hammer piece now. So that was a lot of fun, and to kind of see what you guys are doing here is pretty interesting as well.
I just listened to your episode with Eli Duckworth. And he talked about heirloom tools and stuff like that.
Yep.
And if you think about that same way, we are probably the only, since since metals were being used for knives in the last 100 years, is probably the only time in history where humans did not possess knives that they planned on giving to their kids. And if you think about it now, if you pass on, you probably use a knife every single day, and for most people, it's synthetic, it's plastic, it's something that probably wouldn't stand out if they're, if you did pass it on, and then you may not have, want to pass on to every kid or something like that, and you may be passing on something if they do grab your knife that doesn't tell anybody anything else about your personality, which I think when you look back at some of these historical figures, I think shape so much of us that we don't even realize when you look at, these frontiersmen that built America. When you look at people that really define our history, they are not only standout figures, because of their accomplishments, but most of them also probably had guns, knives, tools that tell you a lot about who they are as a person. And to a degree, they're a little bit of expression. They're probably a form of expression that the person had at the time. And we've lost a lot of that with knives, I think.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those. I remember. So my dad was retired after 27 years of the Army, and I remember ever since I was a little kid, he had a boot knife that he was an aviator, so he's had a boot knife with him. And then I remember when he retired, he gave it to me. It was a Gerber Mark I that he bought during LDAC in Washington when he was, a cadet in the late 70s.
Yeah.
And you never really think about it. And then I remember just about a year or so ago, I found it in a drawer. It was just sitting in one of my drawers. I'm like, man, this thing's been all over the world with 27 years of service, and now it's like there's nothing I could do to like, I guess, continue on the legacy that this knife has. It's just a cool heirloom piece. And I feel like you guys definitely have that sort of aesthetic, and that it looks like they're very stout tools. I'm putting some money away for a forager myself whenever I can get some monies coming back my way. And it's definitely one of those. I'm going to go back to the foraging thing. It's actually you were talking about those Victorinox paring knives. I remember my mother-in-law is really big into like some of the earthy, hippie nature foraging stuff. And I remember her kitchen was filled with just there was a junk shop down the street, and every time she'd find one of those paring knives, she would just keep it. And she would whenever she'd go morel hunting or morel hunting, or she would always have one of those on her, and it's like in a pocket or something. Not even a sheath or anything. It was just a cheap kitchen knife. And she showed me a lot of like that cool reverse, how to use that reverse edge for foraging, gathering, and so it's when I saw your forage, I'm like, man, first of all, I need to get her one. She'd probably lose it, but or put it in a junk drawer somewhere, and then just a cool concept knife. So we went on the full tangent on knives, and we never really talked about So we talked a little bit about how you got into knives, and you said that you were in the military. Can you talk to us a little bit about your service, what you did, and
Yeah. So I originally, right after high school, I'd done a little bit of community college. Wanted to go to the same college as my now wife. Was looking at ways to do that, and heard a recruiter talking about joining the Guard and going to college. Didn't really do much research whatsoever, and joined the National Guard as an 88 mic truck driver.
Wonderful.
It was fantastic, and I fell for every. That was a recruiter's dream. It didn't matter what he said. I just believed it because it's the military. You know, they're too upstanding to lie. They take care of our constitutional rights. And they love every one of us. Yeah.
The 88 to 18 series.
Yeah.
That contract.
This was when the Transporter movies were big. You know, I don't know if Transporter 2 had come out or something like that. And he was like, man, look, Transporter's huge right now. And in all honesty, it was this was 2007, 2008. So they were just dying in Iraq and Afghanistan as much as possible. They needed truck drivers like crazy. So it made a lot of sense. But once going to college, from there, finishing everything in some VA, Mike, becoming a guardsman, going to college, that's when I discovered the ROTC program, and I joined with that as a simultaneous member. And that kind of put me on the officer path. Also, at the same time, you know, survival shows and stuff were really big. And the college I was going to was a very hippie college with a lot of crazy things. So while I was there, for part of my international relations, my poli-sci degree, I was having to take counterterrorism classes, introduction to terrorism, things like that. But at the same time, I was taking Chinese medicine, collecting herbs and stuff like that. So I'd go from my hippie classes on one side of campus to my terrorism classes on the other side of campus. And through that college experience, I kind of just that love of being outside, knowledge of being outside, and that that desire to grow as an officer, both kind of, I moved along both those paths at the same time. Commissioned as an infantry officer out of Appalachian State University, and then after going through the infantry course, got stationed in Fort Wainwright, Alaska. At the time that Kim Jong-un was doing a lot of testing, Russia was building up their Arctic program, so we had a very Arctic focus. For the most part of the year, that was a striker brigade at the time, and they pulled us off everything. We were strikers in the summer. We were light Arctic infantry training in the winter, and Russia was the focus, everything like that. It was just all about what do we do if Russia moves into an Arctic area. I was a scout sniper platoon leader at the time, and we were focused quite a bit on how to engage a Russian threat over snow mobility. Then, and my wife and I fell in love with Alaska during that time. We had huskies up there. We got into mushing. We got into the community. We were hiking like crazy, mushing like crazy, really falling in love with Alaska. After that time, transitioned to Army intelligence, made the mistake of telling human resources when they were trying to figure out where are the best places as intel captains. I really wanted to go back to Alaska, and I thought we'd eventually leave the Army in Alaska. So I told him, like, hey, I want to study. I want to keep, studying for the Russian threat. I want to keep focusing on that. I want to go back to Alaska, and that's my primary goal. And they said, why don't we just send you to Europe then? And that wrecked our plans for a while. So went with became an intelligence officer and was assigned to an aviation unit that ended up working in 13 different countries in Europe, and then down into Turkey when we had so many guys in Syria and stuff like that. Did that for a while. Great opportunity to, learn a few things. Went through some amazing schools. Went through SEER school at the time. Lot of opportunity to go to some of those survival schools that the aviation units really love to send guys to. Had our first two kids, had twins there, decided didn't want to do the Army anymore because it was going to take so much time away from them. I was up for a command, and that would have immediately been a 15-month deployment. So we got out, came back to Alaska, and became an intelligence contractor with DEA at the time, working on the opioid problem and doing opioid investigations here in Alaska. Met some incredible people, grew a little bit more in knowledge of Alaska and stuff like that. And that's actually where we came up with the name. We were getting ready to go talk to a pharmacist that had been causing some problems. We were just going to do a friendly interview. We were, myself and a task force officer who was local to the area, were sitting outside of a pharmacy, and we were watching people walk in to kind of see what people were going into the pharmacy, to kind of get an idea of, what to expect. And see somebody walking in, and the task force officer with me points him out and says, "Hey, you see that guy right there? He's generally polite but dangerous." And the moment he said it, I thought, I want that on my tombstone. Generally polite but dangerous. And then when the opportunity came to pick a name for a knife shop, that stuck with us. We ended that, moved to a different full-time job, but really started the part-time knife making up here, and we've been doing that ever since.
That's pretty cool.
Has it been pretty lucrative? Like, it's not the word I want to use, but has it been good for you guys so far?
All your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, has it been one of those, you're making your dreams come true, or is it, hey, this has been fun?
We're actually, we're at a very good point right now where we're making the process more efficient to kind of meet some of the demand. But this year we're actually going to have to scale back on some things because we've kind of taken in too many knife orders. We're going to clear out some custom stuff right now and look for ways to kind of slow down a little bit here. Our batches have gone from 1 to 2 knives at a time, where we'll finish a batch this week that will be probably 20 knives. And right now, as a part-time gig, I'm making anywhere from 30 to 45 knives a month.
Wow,
that's
okay.
Good.
I mean, that's for just part-time, and then you're also coming out with some cool stuff too. Like, I saw that you had the real creatures that people say that they're fake, like the skinwalkers and the Wendigo.
Oh, the cryptid set. We have, and I think this goes back to who you can kind of be as a person with some of this stuff. The way that one of the cool things about doing your own stuff and having such easy, great mediums to work with, like leather and wood, is you can put a lot of style into it and a lot of individualism into it. And one of the things that we get asked for a lot are cryptid hunting knives. People. Where we do a lot of this is we do sheath artwork, where we're actually going through by hand and burning all the artwork into sheaths and stuff like that. And so every once in a while we'll take on themes that people have asked for. So we do a lot of war themes and things like that. We do our technical scout design right now, which turns the knife into a sundial, standard ruler, map protractor, star
awesome.
guide.
That's super cool sheath. Like, it boggled my mind. I saw a picture. I'm like, why aren't we doing this more often?
It's an awesome way to take advantage of unused real estate. And then with the cryptid set, we also have the opportunity to take some of those things and then do things like the cryptid hunter. We get asked to make cryptid hunting knives all the time. And so we did a lot of Bigfoot sheaths, and we went through Bigfoot, Skinwalker, Wendigo, and stuff like that. And we're able to put some stuff on there like that. And then that was right after coming out with our Clinket Double Dagger, which is an Alaskan, a full-tang, smaller take on the southeastern Alaskan fighting knife with 2 blades on either side of the handle, and put a lot of great kind of more native art into that and stuff. So those kind of things are great ways to put some of that. These sheaths that we're working on right now, they're going to all come out with just a very simple font on the side of it, following the outline of the knife, that just say, "I got a bad idea." And so we're excited about that too.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
And then did you look into the Rougarou at all? The cryptid set?
No, we didn't. We got so many. We looked at. We probably got. I think we ended up going too basic with Bigfoot because we ended up getting words we never heard of, and there was a time where we had to cut off some people because we just started looking at things like, man, if we follow up on each one of these cryptids enough to, John, there's no way we're going to be able to finish this set in a decent amount of time. Words we couldn't pronounce at all, and it's a slug creature from who knows where that comes out of the mud to bite your toes and stuff like that. Just some crazy stuff we found doing that one.
So when you posted that about like what we should do, there's that one, the Rogaroo I was going to send you, and there's another one that's like a Japanese culture. It's like someone lives in a toilet that like grabs your butthole at night. Like, yeah, it's just, I thought it'd be an absolutely hilarious like knife sheath, this hand coming out of a toilet.
That's awesome. We do one of our most popular knives is our Sneaky Fox. And it's a Scottish Skondu knife blade with a Japanese wrapped handle, and that one is one of our absolute favorites. It's spawned a bunch of variants and stuff like that, but it's based on the idea that in Japanese mythology, your ancestors become, I guess, glowing foxes that can talk to you, and we do a lot of we use a lot of World War I and World War II and some of the OSS operations as inspiration for our standard batches. And for that one, the inspiration is Operation Fantasia, which was this idea that from our research, it looks like a Scottish member of the Secret Service came up with, that we would in World War II convince Japanese citizens that their ancestors were upset about Pearl Harbor and encourage them to pull out of the war by radiating foxes to the point that they glowed and having collars that with radios sewn under their neck. So we would release glowing foxes all over Japan to just walk around with these radios in their under their throats yelling, "I'm disappointed in you." And I don't think it ever went anywhere, but just that level of ingenuity with science, religion, spy work and everything, we use that for almost for probably 50, 60 knives at this point.
I would say that sounds like a CIA, that sounds like an Intel guys thing. It's like, what is the most obscure way we can solve a simple problem? I got an idea, guys. Let's irradiate foxes and put voice boxes in them and drop them in Japan.
Well, when the Intel mottos is when you're talking to commanders and you're asking for things, it's make them tell you no. Ask for everything, make them tell you no. And somebody didn't. Somebody didn't say no enough times and turned into that.
I love that saying. Like that makes perfect sense for especially like so I'm currently in the reserve still as civil affairs, and that we have to do a lot of stuff like that, like come up with very creative things. So I love that. Make them tell you no. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, one of our favorite lines. We used it a lot.
So diverting from knives, I know you and I've talked a lot about your eclectic gun collection. Now, first of all, how did you kind of get into firearms? That's what's your villain story behind firearms?
I think growing up, it was a very rural upbringing in North Carolina. Everybody had guns, and everybody had the same kind of guns. All the old men carried the pocket 25. Everybody had your standard shotgun, bolt action rifle, lever action, that kind of thing. And then occasionally you'd see a big handgun, but I don't remember seeing a lot of them early on until my dad got in 1911. So really, I remember him being obsessed with a 1911, and really, he wanted just to put together this very GI model. He wanted that, and he wanted every gun that had come out of Lonesome Dove, the miniseries. And so we would just we grew up watching that a lot, and we'd see all the cool old guns there. I think you and I talked about the revolving carbines and revolver carbines and stuff like that we have. And as I grew up, just started getting more into it, probably more so than my dad or anybody else in the family. And I think I took a path a lot of people are probably taking now, where you go in you want an AR and a Glock. After a certain amount of time, you want an AR and a Glock because those are dependable, trusty rifles. Everybody's using them. Everybody's got one. You get your AR and your Glock, and then you got to have your backup AR and Glock. And then after a while, you still have that gun itch, but you hit a point where you just want to have something cool, and that turned into us just finding cool old firearms wherever we could. For the most part, the ones that we get the most comments on, they're guns that people don't really want, that you can probably find people almost giving away, and we modify them in whatever way we can to make them an appropriate prop for the page. I think one of the ones that you've commented on a lot is we have a fit special approach to the Rock Island 206 38 special snub nose that's already bobbed. And what we did was we took and in typical Fitz fashion, we cut the trigger guard, we filed that, we filed down a lot of the edges to give it that more rounded look, and then we took the grips that came with it and we gave them the same sculpted look that we use on a lot of our knife handles and stuff like that. Then our knife handles, we do an epoxy cord wrap. Whenever you feel the epoxy cord wrap, it almost feels like gun checkering on the knives and stuff like that. I mean, it just creates a solid grip that you can't get your hand off of. And we did that on the gun as well, and over a Tyler T grip. And just taking some cool old guns like that and really modifying. Like I said, I think with knives, we wanted something that we wanted knives for people that fit people's personality. So you're making a knife that's not just for a person, but it's an expression of, who they are. And for most of our knives, people get in and say, this is the kind of knife I wanted. It fits my style, fits my aesthetics and stuff like that. And then we like to pair those with guns that fit those personalities as well. So when we look at our page, and I talked about our props earlier, when we take photos of these knives, we go through and we think, what is the person who wants this knife? What else do they have? What's in their pocket? Are they carrying if they go out in the woods, are they carrying a modern compass? Are they carrying an old brass compass that their grandpa gave them? What kind of lighter do they have? What kind of books are they reading? What kind of clothes are they wearing? And all that's in there with a firearm that we think fits with it. And so we do a lot to make sure that the content fits an entire personality of people. And the guns and knives are a big part of that, matching those up and getting those right.
And I think you guys nail out of the park. Like it's a very aesthetically pleasing page to go visit. Just even if you don't, if you're not shopping for anything or you're just, you're just looking for that old timey utilitarian, kind of, Eli said, the heirloom pieces. Just going to your page and just scrolling through gives you a lot of ideas for that sort of stuff. Because my understanding, I feel like you draw a lot of your experience from being in the infantry, being in kind of the intelligence service, of things that people are actually using, rather than I saw someone use it, therefore I bought it, and I now post it on Instagram. I see, like I was looking at your page earlier today. There's a bunch of things, like you have like the flipper, a flipper zero in some of your photos.
Yeah.
You have some other, like some of those unique tools that you see, and you're like, hey, that's a very specific thing that that I either own or I've seen out and about, and you tied it together with these knives.
Well, I think people can spot, something that's not genuine, something that's not authentic. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like this. When you're when you watch a movie or you read a book, and all of a sudden something snaps in you, and you notice something that's out of place that doesn't make sense there.
Yep.
And it instantly ruins the book, movie, whatever you're in, because at that point, whoever's putting that together does not know what they're talking about. And that's one of the things that we strive for a lot in the photos and stuff like that, is to give the sense too that one, we built this off of experience we have with this type of tool, and you can see that with the content we put around it, with everything else that we put around it. When I was bouncing between all the Eastern European countries and stuff like that, I would love to go foraging. So I'd still like to go out, and we actually had a former chef in the unit that was with him. We would go out and we just find what we could, come back and cook it. in the little place we were staying, and it was fantastic to kind of keep that going on. But at the same time, you would go do all your intel stuff. You would meet with units. You do your security overviews and stuff like that, and then you go back to meals that were partially foraged and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see a lot of that stuff, a lot of it is stuff that we've used. Rather than the flipper, I've used that like crazy. So, same thing with the Wi-Fi jammer and stuff like that. Things that fit an entire persona that I would have in my pockets if I was doing that. If I'm going foraging, a lot of stuff in the photos is stuff that I have with me. Those are my guns, things from my pocket that I'm carrying if I'm going foraging. If I've got a knife that I think would fit for a certain role that I performed in the military or the DOJ, then I pair things I would have taken with me to go to each of those places to kind of give that sense that the knives are built from an authentic place of experience.
So, I know you've talked about Eastern Europe a couple times. What was your favorite place you've been in Eastern Europe, if you can divulge?
There's really, I don't think any of the Eastern European places are great. Okay. I think that's like.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I hear Romania is a great place.
I love it.
Yeah, like I don't have a favorite vegan restaurant either. No, I think I think once you get past Poland, a lot of things feel the same.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan of Poland. And before Germany kind of took the turn it has now, I really liked working with them. And I think my favorite people to work with were Belgians, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we say it was mostly aviation. So typically we'd land in a spot just long enough to do what we need to do and then leave. We worked a lot with Romanians. We did a lot of work on the Black Sea and things like that.
Yep.
And a lot of that, it was just aviation, so just very, very fast. I wouldn't say that there was any place where I really got to experience the culture or anything like that.
Yeah, it's fair. Like what's unique with the civil pharaohs world is you get a little bit more clandestine, I guess, or a little bit more involved with the local population. I guess it's like one of the best kept secrets of the Army. If you are in the military, if you guys are still active or even reserves, and want
get out.
Yeah, first of all, get out. But if you're at that point where it's like, it's like 10 years, I can do 10 years more. Definitely look at civil affairs because it's definitely a very unique just job set. But enough shilling for General Milley's still around. I can't even remember who's who now.
No, he's out now.
Yeah,
is he?
Yeah, he's out.
When did he leave? Just recently?
Yeah, like a couple months ago.
Couple months ago.
Yeah, a couple months.
Oh,
so
darn.
But I don't want to talk about politics. I'm talking about knives in Alaska. So, so I'm gonna kind of circle back all the way. You talked about some of the ice sports that you guys got into, like with living the Alaska lifestyle. I hear Alaska is one of those places. It's kind of like the inverse of Hawaii. Everyone thinks they want to live in Hawaii and visit Alaska. And inverse, it's you want to live in Alaska and visit Hawaii. That's why half the reason why I'm afraid to go to Alaska, because I probably will never leave.
Confirmed.
No.
Okay. So what has, like, first of all, what's some of the big Alaska lifestyle things you guys get into, and what's like probably your favorite thing you do?
In this area, so we're in South Central Alaska. We're about an hour and a half north of Anchorage, the big city in Alaska. And here, apart from just the normal things, so the beauty is unparalleled up here.
Mm-hmm.
So from the deck on the back of my house, of unobstructed views all the way to Denali and 3 other mountain ranges. You can step on the deck when the northern lights are out, not have to do anything, and have northern lights are above you. We've got moose that come in the yard nonstop. We've got eagles that fly overhead. There's a creek 10 minutes away from us where we go dip net fishing. where we put a net in the water. We get our salmon for the year, and we usually get 50 to 80 salmon a year, about 10 minutes from the house, just by putting a net in the water and pulling them out. So those are the things that most people think about. We're also in an area with a lot of the Iditarod mushers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we got into that the first time when we were in Fairbanks. When we first picked Alaska, we had the opportunity to trade with somebody. It was the option to either go to Kentucky or Alaska, and we thought it'll just be a few years. We'll go to Alaska. My father-in-law loves Alaska. He would just keep collections of Alaskan library, or he had a small Alaskan library, and he would read about it all the time. But I'd never been, and we thought, this might be an opportunity. We've got Huskies. We have the chance to go to Alaska. Maybe we go up there and we, do a couple of adventures with them. Maybe we bring her dad up, and then we'll be there for 2 years and we'll leave. Got up there and really got invested in the local mushing community. We were at all the mushing events, and then trained our Huskies to mush. And at the same time, I mentioned I was the Scout Sniper platoon leader. That was when General Shields was in charge of U.S. Army Alaska, and his primary focus was over snow mobility and building up those Arctic skills that were not present in the unit, that people kind of lost over time. So he wanted people skiing, snowshoeing, ski joring, mushing.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff lined up exactly with what we wanted to do as well. So I could mush for PT if I wanted. We go snowshoe. We had a ski hill by the house, so that kind of kept us interested in all the things that Alaska has to offer for the sports and stuff like that.
Have they gotten into tactical snowboarding yet?
That
no,
was my jam.
nothing like
that
that.
was my jam.
And the skiing is atrocious. It's real bad, but they still have them. They still want to do it. I haven't seen any of the units yet that are very, very proficient with it. Usually it's a small team thing. How some bases will offer like their base sniper competitions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Alaska used to do that, at least with their skiing competitions and their biathlons and stuff. But yeah, just got into that. And then when the DOJ hired us as a contractor, originally we thought it was going to be Fairbanks. They offered us a job further south, and when we got here, we ended up moving into another community of mushers here. And this area is just Iditarod mushers instead of Yukon Quest mushers, which is what you see the other 1,000-mile race starting out of Fairbanks. And we currently, no snow to do it this year, but we hobby mush with our Huskies whenever we get the chance to here, and trying to teach our kids a little bit more about it this year.
How many Huskies do you have?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Beat you to it.
Yeah.
We're down to 3 right now. Had 4, 1 just passed, and then this year we'll be starting more once we get enough snow on just a beautiful little Husky. She's 3 or 4 years old now, be turning 4. Very, very smart, very, very athletic build, and one of the original lines up here that you can kind of trace back to around the Nome Serum run that started the Iditarod and everything like that. So
nice.
We're excited to get back into it. Yeah, same
cool.
area.
Yeah, that is super cool, man. And that's one of the bucket list items. I heard you say it a little bit earlier, but bucket list items for me is to actually see the Northern Lights, and I'm extremely jealous that
we just had them.
Not like that, you moron. Not where you go outside and it's like, I think there's a faint red glow. I don't know. I want to actually see the lights dance in the sky, right?
Gotcha.
So to hear that you can just sit on your back porch and watch it, I think that is freaking awesome.
We had the coolest show I think I've ever seen on New Year's. So we start celebrating New Year's at 8 p.m. here in Alaska, which is awesome as a dad with 4 little kids.
Yeah.
We're done with New Year's by 8:30. But that's when everybody does the fireworks and stuff like that. At 7:57 New Year's Eve this year, Northern Lights popped out and just started spinning in circles right in front of us.
Wow.
So there were fireworks going off, Northern Lights just spinning all around us. Kids had sparklers, fire on the back deck, and it was just lights every direction you turned. It was incredible.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're the girlfriend and I are talking about a trip to Iceland because
should go to Greenland.
I know. I hear. We'll just hold off. Just hold off a couple more months.
Yeah.
Hold off a couple more months, and maybe next year, we'll just be able to get a cheap flight to Greenland. And,
a cheap flight to America at that time.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, wouldn't that be freaking insane if Greenland became the 51st state?
No, Canada will be 51. Greenland 52.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Will it though? Because now Trump doesn't have anybody to bully since Trudeau resigned. Yeah, he bullied him to resign. So
we're talking about knives in Alaska, not politics.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So, and so are you guys big in the hunting community? I guess hunting community. I don't know if that's what surviving, I guess, is in Alaska.
We haven't had as much time for it in the past few years. I love small game hunting. That's huge up here. We have local birds that run around, taste really good, and look like chickens, and wait for you to shoot them up here. And then we do a lot of fishing. Like I said, we've got a creek by us that we actually have. You'll get exhausted filleting all the fish that we pull out of there.
That was miserable. Absolutely miserable.
It doesn't sound like it, but we had, and you can do it all before work. So that's one of the things that we love doing when the time hits. So you can. We had an instance this year where I went out, set the net in, expecting to get one or two before work. Got there at 6, left at 6:30 with 12 gigantic salmon. Made it to work by 8, piece of cake, and then you're just loaded up with salmon for the year. We ended up, I think the last time we did it, we ended up with almost 90 for the season. Our family just filling the freezer with sockeye salmon from that, close to the house. So it's pretty incredible. It's hard to describe.
There's like limits as to how many you can have per household. Is that right?
Yeah. So ours,
I
think our limit last year was 105 or something like that. We got a big family, but 105 salmon from this one area. Yeah, because it's something, if I remember correctly, because I've been watching a YouTube channel. It's something like Alaskan Cabin Adventures. I think that's the name of it. And it's this dude that built a cabin on property somewhere in Alaska, and it's just his kind of a vlog of him doing all the different things that you do for kind of an off-grid cabin. And one of the videos was him going out and fishing. Is it? You said drop net. You said dip netting. Net?
Yeah. So there's a river that is basically just kind of dumps into the ocean, and at a certain time of year, they'll go out with these big, massive, like hula hoop or larger size nets, and then they'll walk out and just put it in, and then a fish hits it, a salmon of some sort. I don't know.
Yeah.
and then he pulls it out, and he ended up with like 30. And he was saying, based on his family size, they could have up to like 60 or something like that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, because that's not something that we see here in the state.
Nope. We get like down here in the lower continental, we get like a catch limit of like 3, and they have to be certain sizes,
certain size and stuff like that. Yeah.
If you do catch your limit, cool, you probably have made enough fish sticks for like you and a significant other, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's wild up here. The big, your big game and stuff like that, I think is a little bit harder for people to imagine how spread out it is. Just we got tons of big game, but it's spread out over such a wide area. But when we look at everything else, if you're just looking for just easy things, the salmon's a piece of cake. Foraging here is absolutely phenomenal. We do huge batches of jelly, berries, and our property here, we're on 1 acre that just is loaded down with high bush cranberries, low bush cranberries, watermelon berries, raspberries, roses, fireweed that we make a lot of stuff with. And you don't really have to. And fiddlehead ferns, we're loaded with fiddlehead ferns and things like that. Things that people, go to restaurants for. Most places in the yard's just filled with it. We're still loaded down with all the things we collected from last year.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So look, before we go in, I'm going to go back to the salmon real quick. One of the salmons that you pulled out of the creek that you were just talking about, like, give us a reference for some of us that just don't understand how big one of these salmons are. How many salmon steaks, like 4 ounce?
Or do you know how heavy are they? How much pound of fish are you getting?
So I've got 4 people in my family that eat salmon, and we usually can divide up 1 fillet. So let's say the salmon that we pull up, I got it right over there in the freezer. I could probably throw it on the knife scale right now and tell you. Package though, I'd say one fish probably gives us 4.5 pounds of meat, something like that.
That's ridiculous.
Nice.
And it's cool that you guys are doing it actually and eating it as well. Is a lot of the food you guys consume at your house, was it all local caught and processed stuff, or?
No, we do have, and one of the reasons we don't go hunting for big game that much is we have so many friends and stuff like that it's just, the area is so prosperous that we'll have people that come by and drop off, moose. We got a freezer full of moose, sheep, and deer right now that we didn't have to go hunt for, that people just come by and drop things off. Salmon, when people get a good catch, they'll come by here, and we do the same thing for other people if we know they're running low on fish or something like that. So I wouldn't say most of it at all, but it's extremely nice to be able to open up the freezer and pull out something like that anytime we want. A lot of the stuff that we process, like we make, for our kids, they go through a lot of like peanut butter and jelly and stuff like that, like most kids. And that's like all the jellies and stuff like that. We have tons that we make from just things that we find around here. So we probably make, like with things we forage, we probably make maybe 50 jars of jelly a year, 50 big jars of jelly, and then gallons of berries, fiddleheads, things like that we keep to use throughout the year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those skills that are super handy to have. I know my wife and her mom are really big into canning and gardening stuff, and the amount of actually my mother-in-law just made about 8 or 10 bottles of wine from the dandelions in my front yard. A couple
that's awesome.
Summer. Like, it's like that old world stuff that, first of all, it tastes delicious. It tastes like a really it tastes like a cheaper Moscato. It's a very sweet wine, but thinking that's made it from a weed that our neighbors spend thousands of dollars spraying to kill. We're sitting out here, it's like, oh no, he's made wine out of it. A German lady down our road also will come to our house and start eating it. It's kind of weird, but
my kids do that. I don't do as much, but I love that. If people knew all the things you could do with dandelion, we make probably 20-30 jars of dandelion jelly every year. And I've been using it for all kinds of things since college. When I took my counterterrorism class, I had to take Chinese medicine at the same time, and part of that class was a significant amount of foraging for medicinal purposes.
Yeah,
and just collecting all things you find. At the end of it, you have to choose a topic to go through that Chinese medical practitioner has to look over and review your work and stuff like that, and then kind of tell you whether or not you pass the course. And mine was all on the dandelion, and it just fantastic, incredible, amazing little thing.
Yeah, the more I look into dandelions, the more maybe I need to get a forager and start collecting them in my front yard. We have about 4 acres where we just kind of leave it to its natural. We mow some of it, but just leave it to like the natural prairie, and there's a lot of dandelions. So, you talked about a little bit the herbal medicine side behind it. Do you guys do I guess, do a lot of that kind of home remedy, Chinese, old world medicine sort of stuff as well in your family?
I like it when you can use it. And the knowledge we have, we maybe do a couple things with it every year. There are some things we've got tons of willows around here that you can use for the same active ingredients. You find the ibuprofen and things like that, and that's great. It's not near as convenient as just giving your kid ibuprofen or something like that. But we kind of go over. We keep the knowledge handy, and we do the refreshers and stuff like that. We make things like plantain cells to deal with small cuts, sunburns, mosquitoes, things like that, because we can keep that on hand. A lot of the treatments that we do with dandelion, I don't really do too much. I'm not a big fan of the taste of the dandelion remedies.
Yeah.
But we keep a lot of that on hand. A lot of stuff you can do some stuff with clovers up here, a lot with birch bark, a lot with spruce and willow. And we do just enough to keep the knowledge on hand, make sure everybody has a good idea of what you can do with these things. But it's definitely not my go-to if I don't have to.
Yeah. We've been kind of living the scrunchy lifestyle at our weird homestead, where we're doing things like we just eat raw garlic and honey a bunch for like I guess
for vampires.
Yeah, I mean,
those Kansas vampires.
Those Kansas vampires. Man, you joke about Kansas vampires. They're pretty serious. Bleeding Kansas was a real thing that happened. But it's definitely one of those cool things where it seems like it's that lost knowledge that's slowly kind of coming back beforehand. And you're 100% right. It's super easy. Like, I feel sick, I'm gonna get some NyQuil and not remember for like the next 3 days so I can get over this. But there's a lot of that kind of old world medicine stuff that should still be kind of passed down, or at least kept in the back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that you'll never regret having a capability of any kind. There's not going to be a time where you're going to be upset that you know how to change a tire, even if you don't need it, even if you're paying somebody else to do it, or change your oil or anything like that. I think of a lot of the medicinal stuff outside is the same thing. It's never going to hurt you to have it. And really there's only benefit to knowing that stuff and keeping it in your back pocket, just a little bit of knowledge.
So what would you recommend? I usually say this in our little brief intro before we start the show. A lot of what we try to do is introduce the people that are really big into like the gun stuff, and the tactical side of this kind of outside knowledge that also helps. We've done things from like radio communications to like some 3D printing stuff. But one of the things is talking a lot about, or we try to get people with a bunch of unique skill sets. So it sounds like you do have with the whole the kind of herbal medicine Chinese medicine background. Sorry, I'm running off like 3 hours of sleep and 2 beers.
No worries whatsoever.
What kind of like resources, books would you recommend every household should have to kind of help?
I think some of my favorites are the complete herbs source book, for just stuff you can find, and that's more of a generic. It's not local. If you're up here, Boreal Herbal is very good. One of the ones I've gotten recently that I think is very beneficial is the Book of Killer Plants, and we use that with our foragers a lot. The joke with our foragers, we had somebody early on that made the comment. We posted a forager, with a basket and foraging stuff, and they loved it, sent all kinds of messages about it, and then we posted it with a gun and another photo, and they came back with it to us very irate. I wanted to order some of these. A friend ordered them. I've told me shouldn't have, because it's you're really tainting the idea that this is a foraging tool by posting it with guns. And so we've since posted it several times to say, use this for plants only. Whatever we post, these are for plants only. But the Book of Killer Plants, you've probably seen us post that recently. It's the one with the back cover that says deter, repel, manipulate, kill. And that's going to go over what plants in your area are extremely dangerous. So having that, a lot of good plants in your area may look like bad plants other places. Anything with an umbrella top is really bad. So, can be very, very fatal. But, things that look like wild carrots, wild celery tops, things like that, there are poison equivalents that will kill you. So we generally stay away from stuff like that, know what to stay away from first, and stick with some safe stuff. Looking up stuff about dandelions in your area, plantains in your area. For general outdoor knowledge, we normally look up we have the SAS guidebooks, the little orange ones, and that's what we keep with the kids and stuff like that. Pretty pictures and stuff like that they like to look at, but small enough that they can carry, and then it gives you a general idea of what you're looking at. But for the most part, if you can just go out, and we do this with our kids too, try and look at one skill every time you go out. So if you're going to get any of these books or anything like that, none of it matters if you're not practicing it.
Yep.
So if you go out on a hike, you go out outside, we talk about, learning one new skill every time, but then expanding that every time you go out. So we're going to go out, let's look at identifying this one extra type of plant. And then every time you do that, they recognize everything else they've seen. Always stay away from that. That tastes good. We know we can use that. We do that with navigation as well. So when the kids are out, I like to ask them where they're at, which way each direction is. As we pass things, charcoal is a big one as you're passing fires and stuff like that. Hey, what could you use that for? You see a lot of this with the tactical community as well, where you see people talk about, I think it's with the issue of kind of getting a community that you train with, that you practice shooting with, that you practice these skills with in community. You have a lot of people seeing those wilderness skills emerge and stuff. And a lot of those navigational aids, knowing what is good, poisonous, bad, things like that, those really aid those skills quite a bit. Knowing where you're at in the woods, what the plants mean, what the stars mean, where your cardinal directions are based on the sun, stuff like that. Those are very useful skills rather than getting out in the woods with people if something ever were to happen and not knowing any of that stuff or having to pull a book out. But if you do have to pull a book out, those are my favorites.
Okay. That's 100% thing I've been kind of preaching, like, yeah, cool. Your fifth AR-15 is pretty cool, but have you canned tomatoes? Have you grown a garden? Have you done something that's, outside of, just collecting a closet full of guns that chances are you'll never use? So,
yeah.
And then, so I just had the picture here, and then I got distracted with that fits special. That gun that you have is in a special place in my heart that needs to go away because I don't have the budget. I know it's a Rock Island Armory. I get it. It's like a $200 revolver, and there's actually one at one of the local gun stores here that I saw the other day that I was like,
Yep.
I could do this. I got this. But the shoot, I'm scrolling fast. I'm sorry, man. What was
worries.
What was the book that you just told us?
The Book of Killer Plants, and that's posted with the fits in the Forager quite a bit.
And then that one, and then find something local to your area for some of the foraging stuff.
Yeah, for the plants, you want to find something local to your area. For the most part, you're going to see that with poisonous plants, where there are so many plants that may look good in your area, but maybe poisonous elsewhere, or vice versa. You may see something in a book, and this is where I would say that you look at your poisonous plants first. So look at something like the Book of Killer Plants. Realize what's not worth eating. There are some plants, and this goes back to the local thing. There are some plants that are going to be incredibly poisonous. They could kill you if it's the wrong plant. If it's the right plant, you may get 6 calories and a bitter taste in your mouth. Mm-hmm. So something to weigh the risk out, but knowing the dangerous plants first. The Complete Herb Source book is the kind of go-to all over the world book I like. And then whatever you can find about local plants and edibles. Usually you'll see them in usually like little truck stops, little museums and stuff like that. When you're passing big interstates, they have those little pamphlets and nature sections and stuff like that are really easy to find. Visitor centers have them, things like that.
little bit of urban survival with the rural survival. I like it.
Yeah.
And then the SAS handbooks. Why not the Ranger handbook, the holy grail of survival?
I mean, that's really. I think
Mark's just shaking his head. No.
Why are you the way you are,
dude? If we don't have enough time for that one.
The Ranger handbooks. Great. I know we all get used to it in the Army. I lived on that Ranger handbook for years. I haven't built near as many shape charges as I thought I would. Haven't taken out near as many sentries. Never, I've set up a jungle antenna one time, and that was that. So I think it does have a place. It does have a very, very good purpose. But I think one of the things that the SAS guide does give you is knowledge that's specific to survival, and not combat survival, but survival in general. What the woods look like, and then you can adapt that knowledge to whatever scenario you're in. Whether it's fast survival, slow survival, move through the woods quickly, in and out, or am I boiling water, or am I hoping I'm out of here, in enough time to get to the hospital if I have to get bad water, something like that. Mm-hmm. I think the SAS guide does a lot better job of explaining that.
Okay. Yeah, like the copy of Ranger Handbook that I have, I think it's tabbed like 2 places. One, and I think both of them have to do with op orders, just templates. That's all it does. It's like you carry around this,
it's 5 paragraphs. How hard could it be?
Yeah, but all the little subsection stuff like that in there, just for like a talking point. But I think that's the only thing I have tabbed out in mine right now, and it's well loved, but that's again.
Yeah, I know I carried one. I know I had a sergeant major one time that this was his goal for the whole battalion. Everybody had a Ranger handbook, and everybody could reference it at any single point. And I don't think he ever followed up on that whatsoever. But we carried it around just in case. It just basically, wore on the side of your leg in a cargo pant pocket.
Probably in a gallon trash bag or a gallon bag that so it doesn't dissolve in your pocket.
Yeah. But real handy, in that one instance where you did need it, you're holed up in a room and you have to take out a tank really quickly, and you just have gasoline, wine bottles, and twine, you're set.
Yeah, there you go.
It's and for those that haven't had one, it's basically this elaborate book on a lot of stuff that is very useful for like a tier 3 or tier 2 unit, maybe to know off the top of your head and be grilled on at all times. But for the normal everyday person, there are useful things in there. I wish they would come down with like a pared down version of the Ranger handbook, where it's all this
sounds like there's a gap that you and I should probably explore and
dude, I don't have enough time to go through Ranger handbook and cut it all up and everything and repackage it. But no, it seems like that, and the SAS ones, they cover probably a lot more than the Ranger handbook, don't they?
They do. It's a lot more like the Army's 2176, their survival manual.
Okay.
In a pared down, easier to read book.
More pictures. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then the worst case scenario, in case you ever encounter a shark, your scuba diving team has left you behind and you've got to punch a bull shark or something like that. That's another one that we use quite a bit for props.
Okay.
In case you need it.
Thank goodness. I am afraid of sharks. So
yeah, you got to poke an alligator in the eye or something like that. That one's there.
Yep.
I still think that's one of my favorite things to tell people is they're like, hey, what's going on? Like, shark attack, man. Worst I've ever seen. You probably need to keep on moving along. Keep on moving along, guys.
Sharknado.
It really happened here at one time, probably.
But I think that the concept of these books, especially the foraging books that you were talking about, finding one that's local to your area. I know that I do a lot of traveling between here and Wyoming. So it's like now I'm in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, now I need one for Kansas, probably need one for Wyoming, maybe one for Colorado, maybe one for Nebraska, I don't know. Have you ever seen one that's a little bit more regionally based? So you're not having to get all these different types of books?
No, they're usually in most states. You'll see a visitor center. Let's say you're driving 40 and you're crossing into a new state, and you'll have the little state visitor center on the side that has maps and stuff. And usually those have one right there. All
right.
You gotta look around a little bit. They'll have a little laminated, like open brochure looking thing. You open it. It's got a few plants local to the area. But for most people, the ones that you're gonna have in your area that are very useful. And these are the ones I make my kids know. It's willow, dandelion, plantain, and spruce or pine, depending on where you're at. And those cover quite a bit right there.
Right on. Okay, cool. I'll have to remember that. Definitely.
And you can carry those with you anywhere. You don't need something local if you can, memorize those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's obviously it's an area that I'm going to have to start exploring a little bit more. I would say that is probably a gap. I can go out and harvest a deer and process it all myself, but if I don't have something to, trying to figure out some type of medicinal purposes of any type of plant.
Just watch Outlander. They cover that a lot.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, if you look back to like the Civil War, guys were using chicory and dandelion when they would run out of coffee, and that was the primary substitute. So you had to have a lot of skills knowledge just to, bypass or to not have to worry about bad logistics, bad supply, and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's hard enough for me to distinguish, different types of trees sometimes. So,
so it's an aspen. You could tell it is by the way it is.
Yeah.
How neat's that?
Man, we say that all the time with our kids. You see that? You can tell because of the way it is.
That's probably like almost a 10 or 15-year-old video now.
Yeah, it's got to be at this point.
What is it?
Oh, it was one of those. The best way I could describe it, back like in like the mid 2000s, when everyone had like a really like a crappy camera, like a video camera, and was posting shit on YouTube, just to post shit on YouTube. Mm-hmm. There's one called Nature Walks,
and
it's like this kind of overweight, pudgy kid doing nature walks and just saying stupid shit like, "This is an aspen. You can tell it is by the way it is. How neat is that?" And it's, I have this air rifle for Mr. Bear.
OG just started posting that in his videos. That little clip. How neat is that?
Yeah.
That's from.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess because you said you joined in about you graduated high school in 2007, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we're like you and I are the same age. Like joined the Army during the Surge, like Surge 2.0.
Yep.
So I guess a lot of our cultural reference. Mark was born in what, 63, 64?
Yeah, thanks, dickhead. Okay, just so you know, it was born in 78, and I commissioned in 09. So
yeah, we were probably officers before he was.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was 11. Yeah, 2011.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, LDAC. We could sit here and spin tales about our LDAC experiences.
My favorite LDAC story, and this is so funny. It's an LDAC story that happened 12 years after LDAC. I just get to my first reserve unit, and this major, the S3 shop. The second he meets me, he starts telling me about how he would have got Recondo if the monkey bars weren't slippery. And he went like a 2-hour tirade. I'm like, "Hey man, this is the first time I met you, and I do not like you, right? Because it's the only interesting thing about
you. If you're holding on to it this long." Yeah. The only thing I remember, so I went through and I'm not bragging or anything like that, because I mean it's not hard to play that game there, but so I went through and I got most outstanding cadet when I went through that cycle.
Hey, congratulations!
And
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. But you do your peer reviews the entire time, and you finish up at the end. I remember the trainer assigned to us, the captain. He took me aside, just like he did with everybody. They kind of read through some stuff, and he went through my evaluation. He said, the general sense that I get is that people think you're smart, you're knowledgeable, but they do not like you. And a lot of people wrote that you're a douche. And I'm like, all right. Well, bye, everybody.
Yeah, I'll see you never.
It's funny for all those that have lived that life and they're going to experience it. Like that was probably the most. I remember in college, that was like the most stressful thing about RTC was prepping for LDAC and going through it, and then now here like 17 years later, like wow,
that was the most meaningless thing.
That wasn't meaningless.
Not meaningless, but it was
the only thing I remember is getting a fist fight in a bathroom. That's about all I remember about.
Were you naked? Was that what it was? Someone dropped the show?
You know what, man? That was don't ask, don't tell time. So I can't. For sure, retroactively.
Well, it was the SGL that I had. He said that when I was evaluated for my for being squad leader during Styx lanes, his evaluation was that I seemed very nervous presenting my op order, but when I got through the mission and did the debrief, I was just fine. And I was like, yeah, you were literally looking over my shoulder the entire time I was giving my brief. Yeah, I was a little nervous. Thanks for that, guy. I mean, so
you know what I think one of the things I took away from it though that was very good, and this they do teach you this, and I think you pick up on it. The way that you get through some of those things, the way that you're successful, is still the same kind of thing that I'm using with knife props and stuff like that. It's about when you're being graded like that. It's about building a persona. Mm-hmm. You have to go in there with the idea, with the confidence, with the air around you that you know everything and that you are capable of leading people. You're capable of making people listen to you, take note of you, and you've got a persona that's bigger than life itself. It's big enough to kind of be rated well, to be evaluated well, and that's really what they're looking for. When they're talking about leadership skills, there's some competency, but honestly, you can bypass all that too with the right amount of confidence and that persona that you build up while you're there. And I think that's the same kind of thing that we still apply to some of these knives and some of this content and stuff like that. Is we're building up a persona around each post, around each knife. There's a person who carries this, and you want to be that kind of person.
Yeah. But that's pretty funny because I have the tendency to I like to think that I have that mentality a little bit, but I then run my mouth and I get in trouble. So like during land nav course for LDAC, I got done and I was like, I don't know, an hour ahead.
Oh, you had a kid kill himself on the LDAC, the land nav course. I remember that now.
Thanks for taking my thunder. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I went the year after that, which made it great because they were like, the land nav is looking at the road and telling us which direction you're going.
Yeah, it was. I guess great's not the word I want to use. It was interesting because it was day land nav. Then he, I guess, during the course, decided to take his life, unfortunately. And then the night land nav was like, well, we still have to have you do night land nav. So it was like partnered night land nav. Yeah. Like no one was allowed to go alone. And then after that, it was essentially you had to have a friend with you everywhere you went.
Yeah.
Out of buddy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was also that a bunch of cadets are like the for those who don't know what we're talking about, LDAC is this leadership thing that people in RTC have to go through your third year to kind of get evaluated, make sure you're paying attention in college. It's kind of like a big final exam. And there's a bunch of things called Styx lanes. They're small like scenario lanes where you get given a mission. You have to run it with a bunch of cadets, and it's a big shit show. Nothing goes according to plan.
Yep.
And then when you commission, a lot of guys or a lot of new officers have an opportunity to come back to LDAC and be like the Op 4 trainers, kind of help the next year. So it's a bunch of brand new second lieutenants being Op 4 most of the time. A truck dropped off a pallet to an Op 4 base loaded with live ammo, not fake ammo.
Oh.
And that was a big safety shutdown after some kid tried to, it was a second lieutenant loaded it all up, 6 lanes continuing, and he shot off a bunch of live ammo. But luckily the BFA blew the 249 up. So only the shooter and the AG got injured, but no one died.
Good for them for being stupid.
Yeah. So,
but
that's your Army, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. When I went through land nav, I did the day portion and I smoked it. I mean, came back an hour early and I came walking up and handed over my card that had all of the locations, for those that are not initiated. And they said that the guy who took it from me, second lieutenant, right? He looked at me. He's like, so how did you think you did? And I says, well, that's the picture of perfection right there. And he's like, oh, is it really? Maybe you should calm down a little bit there, cadet. And I was like, you just asked me how it was. I'm just telling you that it's perfect. So, And so I just stood there and looked at him, and he graded it, and he's like, it's a good thing it was good. It's a good thing it was perfect or whatever he said. And I was like, okay, so. And then I then in my platoon ended up being the guy who had to help all of the retrains, the people who didn't pass land nav. I had to go back through and like escort them through the woods, They're like, don't tell them where the point is, but guide them. And
it's kind of like the you put your 40 out of 40 shooter by the people struggling, and somehow he starts scoring like 8 or 10. But the next lanes beside him start scoring, 30s.
Yeah, 33s. Yeah.
Anyway. We don't know our military tirades there.
It's all that stuff. I mean, when you think about it, it's a lot of it. We talked about authenticity earlier, and that's a lot of that stuff is the stuff that comes with it. And, that stands out to people is the small things like navigating. Can you do it? Can you not? What kind of And we talk about compasses a lot with our stuff and things like that. And it's how, the small skills like comms and things like that, that everybody has to know a little bit about, that no one thinks about before joining the military.
It's all I think and I was very guilty of this. The reason, so my dad grew up living the active duty lifestyle, moving around every 2 years. And then, it wasn't really for me until Call of Duty 4 came out, and you're like, "Oh, this is what the military is like." I feel like a lot of people to this day still kind of get wrapped up in that. It's like, I played Call of Duty. This is what the Army's like. And there's a lot of extra stuff that goes in the background. That's not the cool, sexy stuff that makes you a really great soldier, a really great airman, Marine, Navy person. I don't remember. Sailor. That's what they're called. Seaman.
Come on now.
Or sea persons. So you talked about. I'm diving back into my mental notes. So you talked about you took a bunch of classes about during your with the DOJ and the DOD. What's any cool courses that you could think of that it's available to civilians that they should you would highly recommend to everybody that was looking at getting some training done?
I think the best course you can take personally right now, and these are available from lots of places. Most of them are free if you know where you're looking. Social media security is huge right now in our world. How do you protect yourself? So I did a lot of primary open source intelligence work for the Army, and then DOJ was a lot of open source intelligence work. And it's incredible how much of a picture you can paint of somebody just on social media, even if they think they're being very careful. So having that social media investigation experience has helped us a lot with what we do, with kind of how we approach, personal security at the house and stuff like that. I think it's something that, again, it's not one of those sexy topics. Foraging, social media security. I know none of these are the things that really stand out for Call of Duty fans, but they're the ones that I think are most practical to us. If you're still in the military, easiest school I ever got into was SEER.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. Just, it's a volunteer course. It doesn't cost much more than a plane ticket to go. Most units don't even know that they can send you, and it's generally one piece of paperwork.
Is it the NDA, the one you have to sign an NDA for, or is it the?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's one of the best ones you can take if you're still in There probably, along with like local books and stuff like that, you probably have some local community groups in your area that do wilderness skills and things like that. There are several here for homeschool families of kids and things like that. They go out and teach wilderness survival skills, and for the most part, they're skills that everybody needs to know. We've got a few in these areas that local adults meet up and do geocaching, which is great for learning land nav and stuff like that. So you can check Facebook for some of those in the area. That seems to be a good place that people go to a lot. And then I think in the world of social media right now, finding some of those influencers that, or not influencers, but some of those pages, some of those, the content where people have genuine, authentic experience, and reaching out and just asking for help on stuff. That seems to be the most effective way to build up a skill set very, very quickly. It's finding those people that maybe have the time to work out, have the time and the temperament to work with you, and then, trying to figure out where they learn their stuff from. Are they doing it locally? Are they, is it prior experience to be willing to share? And then 2, you're building a connection with somebody that you can, that is advantageous for you in the future as well.
Yeah, that, and I think Instagram, you run into like, I usually use Instagram as an example because that's the main one I use. You run into like one of 2 categories of people. It's the people that are willing to share knowledge, or they're doing this to expand, and there's people that are doing it just for, I guess, the dopamine hit or the clout that comes for it. And it's really great to like, that's one of the big, like, I hate social media to begin with, but the thing that Instagram has done has been able to at least connect people. Like, at least I've been made all these wonderful connections to people to get, not even just as simple as, hey, read this book. This is where I learned a bunch of this stuff on, or hey, go take this class, or hey, go talk to this person. Or it's been a great source for that. And I think that's what those social media platforms are designed to do. Instead, but instead, I actually just pulled up my Instagram right now, and I see like a very hyper sexualized woman with nods, and then 2 pictures down there, like it's very nicely done. Matt took the photo of a Glock 19 and talked about how Glocks suck. Like, that's where we're at in a lot of these communities. So it's great meeting people, especially like you, Sam. That I reached out on a whim. I think I just talked about your fit special, how you personally did it, or if you got it like sent off. And I bet you if I pestered you more, you'd probably show me step by step exactly what you did and what tool you would use for it.
Yeah, you might be nervous doing it. I will show you all that stuff. And we do put out tutorials and stuff, and that's one of the things we're going to do more this year is maybe some knife building tutorials and stuff like that. I will, but I'm approaching most of this stuff outside of knives. I'm approaching everything else as a novice for the first time. So maybe you don't want to reach out to me about what to do with an angle grinder and a gun, but anything else I'd love to help out on.
Well, you'd be surprised how many times I've used an angle grinder on a gun. I remember what did we chop off one of your AKs? It was a buffer tube, wasn't it? Like a welded on buffer tube.
Yeah. It wasn't welded on. The screw was so tight that I literally couldn't get it on. So we had to take an angle grinder
to it. And I have actually one of my like one of the 2 J frames I carry, which I have on me right now. I've taken angle grinder to it several times, doing stuff to it, or a Dremel.
You'll be good then. Chop that guard.
Yeah, you're getting me. You're going to get me in trouble with the wife. Like, show up with the Rock Island Armory. I do want to do one with the Heritage, but I think the Rock Island Armory is probably a better platform for it.
So here's the tip on this for anybody that's listening and wants a Fitz, because I'll be at least the second person on here to mention the Fitz platform. If you're doing it, get a Kydex holster made for it before the cut, because then it still fits and it still holds everything in place just fine. But you have a lot of that gap where you don't have to worry about a Kydex holster being made for it afterwards. That does not hold the trigger guard, or that has the Kydex touching the trigger.
Well, what I'm really hoping for is it's a guy who no longer makes leather goods. He shut up his shop and found God, and now does what's it call it, mission work. And he made me a really nice like kind of revolver pocket holster with a lanyard, kind of like I think you have a picture of one like your Fitz holster.
Yeah,
you have your Fitz, very similar, but it's just all leather. I'm hoping this, like if a Heritage or Rock Island happens to find its way and gets fixed, would work in that. But you did so this is, I guess we're going to go talk about revolvers because they're my new thing. Why the Fitz? Why did you Fitz it?
Man, that's just a classic design, isn't it? To think that there was a point where that was all gunfighters wanted were those Fitz and stuff like that. I mean, just absolutely fantastic, fun little guns. There are some benefits that you read that people use them a lot with gloves, and gloves at the time did not have the same fit that we think about with gloves now. So you did have to worry about a gloved hand catching on the trigger guard. You're moving an index finger in, and the excess fabric on the end of the glove catching, and the Fitz, eliminates that. We wear a lot of gloves up here. You could justify it that way, but really, I just just saw it and wanted it.
Nope, it's kind of like I don't know if you ever seen the show Archer, like it's like I think it's like season 2 or something where he pulls out that stiletto like switchblade and he's like, what'd you carry switchblade? It's forever, it's a long story, and then it just shows like flashback of him at a pawn shop. Like, that's neat. I mean, like that's like 90% of the gun community. Like, it's a long story of why I carried this, and it's like, no, I saw it at a store one day. I thought it was neat.
I mean, isn't that all? I mean, I love my Fitz. I love smoking pipes and the custom knives I make. And I just think that one day there'll be like one of my great grandkids running around long after I'm gone. And he'll be like, yeah, that was my great grandpa. He carried one of these old Fitz special revolvers, a pipe, and one of these custom knives where we went. So he was a gangster or a detective or something. I don't know. I don't know anything else about it, but this was his stuff. And that'll be all that's left behind,
Speaking of pipe, what's your go-to tobacco for your pipe?
I don't even, what is this here? Let's see. It is Gambler, and it's the cheapest thing in bulk. There's a place near here that sells pipe tobacco in 2-gallon bags. And I buy that, and I just go to town on it.
Gotcha. Do you like the aromatics, or are you more of the classics?
And I really don't branch into it enough. I have had the same corncob pipe since high school.
Oh boy.
And I've just gone.
You're not supposed to keep those for a very long time, by the way. they're disposable.
It's burned out. Yeah, I've gone through several pipes. Somehow this one's not burned out. I've gone through several where I burned through the side and stuff like that, just running them too hot. But I just love filling that thing up with any kind of tobacco I can find, sitting on the porch at night, and that's about it. Really really don't know enough to give you any better of an answer than that.
That's fair. I know Mark's talked about he's kind of starting his pipe journey, and I was pretty big into it a while back, and now I have like my one or two go-tos, and I usually do the cobblestone creme brulee. I'm a big creme brulee fan, so any tobacco it's flavored like creme brulee. It's like my absolute favorite.
Nan just bought me some stuff. I don't even know what it is, but it's what her grandfather smoked, and she's like, this is what you're going to smoke now. So
granddaddy issues.
Yeah.
Like
Well, no, it just reminds her of him, and she had a really good relationship with him. So I'm like, okay. I mean, so I don't even know what it is, but it's cherry.
Oh yeah, it's kind of weird with pipe tobaccos. It's a lot of the older stuff is like either cherry or it's that just you smell like a campfire, and there's no in between.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of like vaping. It's like you can get all sorts of different flavors and colors and scents.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, for sure. So,
well,
I don't know
10
enough
minutes left. Sorry.
Oh,
what were
I
we
was
saying?
just saying, I don't want that to have an opinion.
Oh,
I wish
yeah. No, same. I'm still learning. I just there's a local smoke shop, and I just have tried out a couple of different things, and one I like, one I don't like, and then I haven't even tried Nan stuff yet, so I need to get on that. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping things up here, Sam. We really do appreciate your time. Fortunately enough for you, it's early enough in the evening that you still have a little bit of time to kind of maybe get a little bit more work done or something like that. But we again really do appreciate you swinging by. We always end up, I sent you an email kind of explaining the who, what, when, where, and why on this, but I always forget to put in there
On purpose, by the way.
we always spring this on our guests. We ask them for your last 30 seconds to instill some folksy wisdom on the audience. So we're gonna pitch it over to you and just let you throw something out there into the universe.
I've talked a lot about developing those personas and stuff like that, and kind of developing that expression. But I think the most important thing, and I teach this to my kids, and I really love it, is none of it matters if you're not doing it. None of the skill sets, none of the tools, nothing else matters if you're not doing it. A cheap Mora that you're actually getting out there and using nonstop is going to be a lot more beneficial than one of my knives you throw in a drawer or something like that. Getting a book on foraging is great. Going out there and foraging is going to be even better. So whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're wanting to get into, just make sure you're getting out there and doing it. I think there's really no better advice you can give to somebody.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Jefe? What do you got?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that I have to do this too.
Yeah, you actually have to do it. Yeah.
For let's say for new parents out there, the adage "sleep when the baby sleeps" is bullshit. So sleep whenever you can. Like that's really about it.
Yep, for sure. My little thing is I just had to take Coriana to the airport
3 times.
Yeah, for sure. A couple different things for everybody. It's wintertime. You guys should already know this. If you don't know this, you really need to freaking unscrew yourself here. Make sure that you have all the necessities that you need when you go anywhere outside of your local area. Like for me, I have to take a 2-hour drive to get to Kansas City. So my entire back seat is full of winter clothing and food and water and things that you may need at any point in time if you break down.
Just have a forge knife. That's all you need.
Jumper cables, those types of things. Yeah, for sure. And even a little pointy or shooty thing that you might need as well. So again, Sam, we really do appreciate it. Just so you know, I did put an order in while we were doing this podcast. So there is an order for a neck knife to say not only thank you for coming on the show, but also to check out your products. And I'll post some stuff on Instagram and X and all the social media stuff. Also, I will have all of your contact information of where they can find you and all that type of stuff, as well as some of the books that you referenced as well. So,
but if you want to shout out where they can where we could find you, that'd be also great as well.
So on Instagram, we're at polite.but.dangerous.tools, and our website is polite.dangerous.tools at square.site.
There you go.
That from the Instagram as well.
Yep, LinkedIn. That's exactly how I ended up getting over to your website. So, again, thanks for swinging on by, and I'm really excited to check out this knife when it gets delivered. And like I said, I'll have some pictures and or I'll probably put together a reel for you. and give you some of my initial thoughts anyway. So
it was a knife maker.
When you said you hope I get some work done after this, you meant package that knife up and get it out, didn't you?
Hey, you know what? I'm going to be gone for a little bit as we're recording this. So, Sam, you take your time and make sure you spend some time with your family first. And don't worry about my order.
SHOT Show season. Do you go to SHOT Show at all? Are you allowed to?
No, we don't. I don't leave Alaska if I don't have to.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Great sage advice.
So 30 seconds,
yeah. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks, guys, for swinging by. We really do appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to us. And if you've made it this far, thanks again. And we will catch you guys on the next time. As always, don't forget to live, laugh, and LARP. Bye, y'all.
Thank you all.